Kia ora guys, welcome back to the Black Jersey. My name's Max, I'm the host of this channel, and a big thank you will always go to my patrons. I'll also remind my new viewers, as per usual, to subscribe to me, like this video and enjoy my content, and perhaps considering to join my Patreons, as I've just taken this channel full time as of late. I also want to dedicate this video to the victims of Cyclone Gabrielle over here in New Zealand. There's 3 people in my hometown that have passed away, and so my thoughts are with their whānau and their other loved ones. God rest their souls. Now, we have to discuss the video about Scotland versus Wales. Because of that cyclone, my video is coming out a little bit late, but I do have a lot of things to say about both these teams. I have nothing but good to say about Scotland. They are looking absolutely phenomenal right now. They are just looking absolutely amazing. For the first time in a very long time, they have won the first 2 fixtures of their Six Nations campaigns back to back. And Wales, I have a lot of bad things to say about them and very few, if any, good things to say about the Welsh Rugby Union right now at all. So Wales fans, just bear this in mind before you start watching the rest of this video. We're going to do a bit of a match day analysis through the footage. I'll explain some of the full-time and the half-time stats there rather, and so yeah, I better crack into this as it's probably going to be a very long video. Although the half-time score ends up being 13-7 for Scotland, the first half really gave us an insight into how the second would look. Scotland's, for all intents and purposes, look like how Wales did back in 2019. They're a settled squad with a strong level of combined playing experience both at club and international level, while their head coach Gregor Townsend has been around for a long time. In Scotland's first major attack of the game, the Welsh defence is hooked into a driving maul before Ben White goes out the back towards Sione Tuipulotu at first receiver. In the freeze frame, we see Finn Russell travelling from Tuipulotu's inside to wrap around. George North appears to believe that Hugh Jones is set to be a screen runner, so spreads out to mark the channel that Russell appears to be running towards. Biggar and Hawkins completely ignore the decoy lines that Jones is running, with Biggar eyeing up Tuipulotu and Hawkins looking to close the gap between himself and North so that Russell cannot break the line after his wraparound is complete. The directions of Tuipulotu's hands seem to be going out the back, but due to his understanding of Jones thanks to his club level cohesion with him at Glasgow, Tuipulotu instead just lets go of the ball at a camera angle that does make it appear forward. Anyway, Jones runs onto the ball at pace as he was initially supposed to be a decoy runner, with Biggar's shoulders, as we can see, open to tackle Tuipulotu and Hawkins' eyes directly on Russell. As the arrow showcases, Jones does brilliantly to override what appears to be the game plan, and he spots the hole between Biggar and Hawkins. After breaking the line, Jones smashes Liam Williams to gain a few more metres, while the Scottish backs enter the ruck themselves instead so that they can get the front foot ball they need. White goes back to Russell, who has spotted a lack of Welsh defence on the open side of the pitch. With Wyn Jones, a loose head prop, the nearest defender to Kyle Steyn is able to catch the cross kick from Russell uncontested. While Jamie Ritchie isn't the player you would expect to run a support line towards Steyn, he crosses the gain line and passes back on the inside to Matt Fagerson as Steyn is taken into touch. Scotland's ruck speed is amazing, with Russell able to pick the clean ball up in just 3 seconds after Fagerson goes to ground for Scotland. As Wales are penalised for not rolling away, the failure of Scotland's next phase does not matter. Russell puts 3 points on the board. Both of the first 2 penalties conceded by Wales also lead to points for Scotland, which tells us Scotland clearly want an early lead. I really liked seeing that mentality from the Scots. After Wales miss a penalty goal and Scotland kick their second, a try to Kyle Steyn is disallowed after some great defence from Rio Dyer, a player who we will talk a fair bit about later in the match. In the 30th minute though, Murrayfield's wait for tries is finally over. As we can see, Wales don't quite put enough energy into pushing back when Scotland go for a driving maul. Wyn Jones is warned by the ref for side entry, whereas Adam Baird and Dylan Lewis remove themselves from the maul while taking out Matt Fagerson Fagerson. Wales simply don't have the numbers to contest the maul anymore, while the removal of Beard and Lewis from this maul, as well as Owens failing to bind on, creates this gap between Owens and Biggar. Since he thinks he's bigger than the team, pun not intended, Biggar doesn't initially call for help against George Turner, who detaches from the maul in a low body position. This ends exactly as you'd assume, with Biggar and Williams allowing Turner to score Scotland's opening try. Although pretty much all of my commentary on Wales during this video will sadly be negative, George Turner is correctly yellow carded for Scotland, and Wales, they do the right thing after Turner's card and they go for the line out. It's common sense to attempt a driving maul while the opposition are down a man, and Ken Owens, he backs himself. The Welsh locks, Jenkins and Beard, do a brilliant block by continuing to stand in the middle, giving Scotland no legal means of winning a turnover. With Scotland unable to do so, Owens goes over to score for his team. Now, as we can see, the halftime score is 13-7. Wales, despite having 59% possession, are still down. Perhaps this is why they want to strike. Wait, never mind, that's the WR board. Anyway, 70% territory as well for Wales. You would expect a team with this much possession and this much territory would be doing very well, but instead, as we can see, they've only run 174 metres off 32 gain line carries. They are trying to get the ball wide, as we can see, with 99 passes, but Scotland, they are doing absolutely superbly with a 94% tackle ratio. Excellent stuff from the Scots, who have just kind of started this wee trend of learning how to win, which I really appreciate, of course. Scotland, their ruck success, though, not very good, so I'm very surprised they were able to keep the Welsh from scoring many more points during the first half. The scrums as well, just 2 from 4 for Scotland, though they do have a better line-out success after the end of the first half. So Wales have all these stats in their favour, but as we've seen through the footage, there's still kind of been a Scottish presence all through the first half, and I believe that though they were dominating all these stats, these Welsh players just don't have the confidence due to either what happened during the PVAC era or the alleged bullying of staff that's happening at the WRU. Discipline-wise, Scotland are also doing a little bit worse than Wales, as they are even with them, but do have that yellow card on their side. So they go into the second half with 14 men. Let's get into analysis of the second half and why Scotland were able to turn it around so thoroughly. It takes a while for points to get on the board during the second half, but Kyle Steyn is enabling a higher score margin for Scotland with a pretty soft try. After a few phases, Finn Russell points to the blind side. Before Russell points, though, we do need to return to a wide shot that shows us just 3 Welsh defenders on this side of the pitch, though Dyer is out of frame. Turner doesn't even bother running at Dylan Lewis for his decoy line, as the Welsh defence is just so lazy. As we return to the wide shot, we see Russell ready to pass. Thomas Williams is ready to tackle Matt Fagerson, while Ken Owens is in a decent enough position to take out Russell. Rio Dyer, however, is standing in a position between Fagerson and Steyn that leaves Steyn completely unmarked on the wing. Steyn then dots down completely unopposed thanks to Dyer's mistake. So my big question here is, what has happened to make this young 23-year-old on his 5th test cap go from looking like a world-class defender to suddenly just having no confidence at all in his 5th test cap? Well, to answer this question, we return to the footage to circle in a particular nasty person who has rushed over from one side of the field to the other due to his complete inability to command a test-level sized defence despite having earned 105 caps for Wales. Anyway guys, back to the game, let's get into this footage. Scotland are able to score again just 6 minutes later. As we can see, Rhys Webb, another senior player on the team, also proves himself a complete liability for Wales. There are no Scottish players on the blind side of the pitch, and yet Webb just stands there doing nothing by the driving maul. As White's pass floats out to Russell, we now see Webb wrapping around while Josh Adams is doing the same. Adams should also probably be further across the other side of the pitch, as Adams has lazily stood behind the players marking Russell and Webb has stood on the blind side. Beard and Morgan have been unable to drift away from the ruck to take their place in the main defensive line. While we do indeed see their 6-on-6, Scotland have been able to push Steyn out wider on the wing. This leaves Rio Dyer once again forced to stand in the position he shouldn't be in. As Jones is shifting forward at pace, Dyer has no other choice but to keep his eye on Jones, who could easily run through this gap between himself and Hawkins. Dyer is also forced to mark a second player, Blair Kinghorn, at the same time, as there's a monster amount of space out wide. Russell then looks to cross-kick to the open side of the pitch, as Kyle Steyn is the only Scottish player on the right-hand side. Because Webb and Adams refused to harden up and get in the defensive line, Dyer is the only player with the time to reach Steyn, who does a brilliant job to take the high ball. While Dyer does get very close to a try-saving tackle once again, Steyn is already in a lower body position and holds his balance, scoring despite Dyer's defensive effort. In the 71st minute, we also get a glorious case of poor Welsh defence again. While George Horne is going wide after this ruck, Wales simply don't have the work ethic to spread out wide enough. 7 Welsh defenders are on the open side of the ruck, while Liam Williams is in the pocket at 15. Scotland also have 7 defenders on the open side, but there's not exactly a great example of man marking. As we point out with the white arrows, Faletau is marking Russell, Patchell is marking Tuipulotu. There's a pod shape going on that sits in behind Tuipulotu, with Steyn and Jones creating the shape of a diamond. Since Steyn clearly won't be utilised as a strike runner due to the other backs being in front of him, why have George North and Alex Cuthbert not shifted further out? As we see a few frames later, Hawkins is also clearly capable of marking Jones. It's all pretty easy for Scotland from here. Russell chips the ball over to an unmarked Duhan van der Merwe, who we all know is a freak with ball in hand. Williams rushes out of position to try and tackle Duhan van der Merwe, but he's side on, so it doesn't work. Similarly to how it didn't work against Cheslin Colby in the Lions tour, Cuthbert does excellently to cover, but van der Merwe isn't as one-dimensional as some suggests. He then passes to Blair Kinghorn, who glides over gloriously to score. In the 79th minute of the game, we also saw a really touching tribute from the Scotland team. During the 8th minute of the test match, there was a bit of a tribute to Siobhan Cadogan, who was a player for the women's team for Scotland. She passed away in 2021 and she wore the number 8 jersey. This was after a severe decline in her mental health that was alleged to have resulted from brain injuries. As I don't know much about the case, I won't comment too much further on it. I'm unsure if this we play here is intentional or not, but as we can see, Scotland have put Matt Fagerson on the left wing. Cuthbert has been called out of position and Fagerson dots the ball down in a very fitting way to end the match. I really appreciated the fact that a number 8 scored the final try in a match where the Scottish fans had a tribute to their former number 8. Now that we get into the full-time stats, the score is 35-7. Gregor Townsend is going to be absolutely amazingly proud of this Scottish team for doing what they did. As we can see, the possession evened out to be 50% for both sides by the end, though Wales did have 61% of the territory. All of the attack stats, though, are now wildly in Scotland's favour after the end of the second half. Wales, with the possession they had, couldn't really do much, but whenever Scotland had the ball, they just looked unstoppable. As we can see, it also evened out for both teams to have as many turnovers as the other. The tackle percentage for Scotland as well, 93%, very well done. 75% for Wales, not ideal. Goal kick success, bit for both teams, but the ruck success, the team who won the most rucks still lost the game. It's not always the percentage of the rucks won, it's always the context of how they were won and how it sets up your team going forward. You just need to have that front foot ball, hence why you need to have them become faster. Line-out success, not very good for Wales either. Scrum success, though, probably the only thing I really think Scotland could work on. Penalties given away. Wales, man. 19 penalties in total when you include their 2 yellow cards. And of Scotland, they made things a little bit better. They only conceded 12 compared to the Welsh 19. Wow, guys, they're looking really grim for Wales, and they are looking really good for Scotland. These are two teams at the total opposite ends of performance right now. And with Warren Gatland unable to save this Welsh team, I really do wonder if we are going to see the Welsh side go on strike. A lot of them didn't actually look too comfortable to be on the pitch. Perhaps they're a bit grumpy at the allegations of what's happening at the WRU. I hope all that stuff there gets resolved. I hope old Scotland are very happy with the result of this game. And of course, I do want to give once more my thoughts to those affected by Cyclone Gabrielle here in New Zealand. For those who are keen to support me, you can jump on my Patreon. You can send a tip to me on PayPal if you're not keen to do a thing over a period of time with payment and stuff. You can also go follow me over on Instagram and over on Twitter. Thank you so much for watching the video, guys. Stay safe out there. You take care, alright? And have a good one. Thank you from Max.